Hi, everybody. It's me, Drew, and unfortunately, I'm alone at the moment because at 9:59, I was told that JPJ's computer is froze. So I'm alone right now, unexpectedly, but that's all right. We can get it done by ourselves. It's not like we haven't done it before. Um, Hope everyone's doing well. Let me just fix this silly thing. There we go. Um, can I move myself so that I'm not blocking everything? Probably. Well, no, not that way. Nope. All right, cool. Oh, wait, I can do this. That kind of fixes it. This is what I did when I was alone last time. So, uh, let me pull up the comments as well. See who's here. We got David. Hello, David. Nice to see you so far. Um, this is firmly AEW Thursday morning. Um, I will keep you updated if JPJ is able to join us. Um, so, if you did not know, we did do a Dynasty Fallout show, specifically to Dynasty right after on Sunday. Well, sorry, Monday morning. Um, it was long. The show Dynasty was very long, and then we covered the show right after that. I did not go to bed until almost 2:30 in the morning on the East Coast, and the pay-per-view was on the East Coast as well in Philadelphia and ended at 12:30 in the morning, and that was very unusual. I did not expect the show to go that long. Usually it does not, but yeah, they decided to make us wait 5 hours for that ending. And yeah, so we discussed that on Monday morning. I was going to say Sunday night, but again, it was Monday morning, and it was interesting. So I'm just gonna kind of get started for now, uh, and hopefully, oh, what happened? Oh, hopefully JPJ can join us. Otherwise, uh, I'm gonna go it alone, which will, oh boy, you're all gonna be really excited about that today. So, yeah, so JPJ, his computer has decided to do an update right at 10 a.m. Isn't that the best time in the world for that to happen? And he will be here once that update is complete. So let's let's talk about Dynamite last night. If you'll see my my lower, I have to point differently today. My lower thing right there kind of explains things. Dookie. Now I will not say that The show itself was dookie. Some of it was, but, yeah, dookie. We'll say fashionably late. That's fine. I'll give him that excuse. Not his fault. So, Dynamite started with a pre-taped Death Riders promo where John Moxley talked about how the roster in AEW is the greatest roster ever, but why is it that nobody can get their acts together when it counts the most? And they go and seek comfort after getting hit without addressing the real problem, which is that they don't want it. They'll scorch the earth of any contender before they give a single inch, and his life's work will not be bought or sold. So, interestingly, in this promo, they mention the Bucks returning. Moxley talks about them, and he says that he hasn't recognized them in a long time, and they better be careful before they make any moves. So they started to set up the story here that the Bucks were acting on their own accord and were not siding with the Death Riders, at least at Dynasty. So, uh, all right. Well, okay. What about me, David? You're saying JPJ is your favorite guy. See, this is the things I'm talking about lately. People people talk about JPJ and they wax poetic about JPJ, and here I am. Do we want to talk about me? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I actually don't care. But I do agree. JPJ is amazing and he does have mad charisma. Um, he makes the show worth watching. Unfortunately, I don't when I'm alone, but that's fine. Um, so John Moxley and Katsuyori Shibata starts off the show in a very, I would say, dynamite Death Riders version. It could have been named the Death Riders version because they were all over the show. Every single Death Rider except for Marina Shafir, of course, because that's what happens. The person we actually want to see wrestling isn't the one wrestling. Um, had a match on Dynamite last night, and unfortunately, for one, I will discuss that, and of course, when JPJ gets here, he's gonna want to discuss it too. It didn't go well for one member of the Death Riders who unfortunately suffered an injury about 5 minutes into the match, and, hopefully Pac is, doing okay. I haven't seen any continued updates since last night, just confirming that he definitely did get injured in that match. So, we'll see, what happens as hopefully the day goes on, he'll be okay, won't be out for too long. Since he is a champion, you might not realize it if you didn't watch Dynasty on Sunday because that's the only time he's been in a match for the championship for the past almost 2 months now, it feels, or month, probably since Revolution. I don't remember if there was a Revolution, uh, trios match. If there was, please tell me because I'm literally not remembering at all. Oh, hey, look who's here in the chat, at least. It's my pal JPJ. I hope your computer's recovering well and will start soon, so this way you can jump on with me. Um, so Moxley and Shibata started out the show, and it was kind of quick. It was quicker than I thought it was going to be. Um, oh, okay. Well, oh boy. Okay. That's gonna be fun. We may just have me and JPJ in the chat today. Um, so all right, JPJ, you can start spouting off your opinions in the chat, and I'll pull them up, and we'll just communicate that way, I guess. Um, so yeah, this match was okay. I mean, it wasn't like awe-inspiring. I mean, I love Shibata, so it's not like I was gonna have anything bad to say about the match itself. But um, oh, 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 uh, yeah. So there's a reason why I said in my tweet about this show, unfortunately, we have to discuss it. Um, so that match ends. Moxley, puts the sleeper hold in and gets the victory. And then the Young Bucks make their entrance. Moxley and Marina Shafir scurry away. And I was like, all right, they weren't advertised for this show. So hopefully they come out and explain their actions, because I said on the Dynasty review on Sunday night, they've got to come out and explain their actions on this show, because if they don't, I'm going to be really pissed off. So they come out and explain their actions on their show, and surprise, surprise, I'm still pissed off. I'm still pissed off. So Nick Jackson gets on the mic and tells everybody to give it up for the founding fathers of AEW. And the whole world is wondering why they did what they did at Dynasty and why they cost Swerve the world title. And he says they have a couple of reasons why, good reasons why. So I said, okay, let's hear them out. Like I said on Sunday, if the explanation makes sense, then cool, because I cannot get upset if I have not heard why the company decided to continue with John Moxley as the champion. Thank you, CIW. This was CIW, by the way. Sinner, my friend Sunday Sinner, the wrestling promotion that he works with. That was not the comment that I wanted to pull up. There it is. Uh, Thank you, Sunday Sinner, and CIW, the international wrestling promotion. Um, yes, yes, not your personal one. This is Championship International Wrestling, but we appreciate you. Yes, I do agree. Fernando might be the most positive guy that you've seen about this, because I've I've not seen many people be very positive about this at all. So let's get into what the explanation was of why they did what they did, the EVPs at Dynasty. Um, they said they did it for the Hangman. They basically Rikishi'd this and were like, we did this for the Hangman, for Adam Page. Uh, and they said, you're welcome, buddy. Uh, you know, they did what Hangman said in the promo on Dynamite last week, where he confronted Swerve before Swerve said, "I know." And they took that and they were like, "Oh yeah, that's right. He doesn't want him to be champion." So they cost Swerve the title for Hangman Adam Page. They don't forget their friends, Nick Jackson said. And they love Adam Page, and they know that Adam Page loves them too. So Matt gets on the mic and says that they're offering a peace offering to the Death Riders and hope that things are good between them now. And they sat at home for these last like 5 months, however long it's been, and they said they have more in common with the Death Riders than ever before, and they both want to make AEW better in the same ways. Hello, Sandy. Yeet to you as well. Yes, I am solo for now, at least, unless JPJ's computer decides to work. We'll see if it does. Um, he says that they are impressed. Matt Jackson said that he's impressed that John Moxley did what they couldn't do, take over AEW, and got the world title. So last Sunday was their elevator pitch to the Death Riders. The synergy that the Death Riders and the Elite could have paired together, working together. So he asked them to come back so that this way they could discuss business. But surprisingly, I don't think a lot of people expected this. Kenny Omega comes out to talk to them, and he's at the ramp for his whole promo, talking about how he remembers the last time, at the height of his diverticulitis, they pushed him off the gurney that was trying to get him to the hospital, and they attacked him. And he hasn't forgotten, but he's forgiven them and said that when he came back, he will. Oh, you're here. You're here. Yay. Look who's here, everybody. Oh, this looks interesting.
Yeah, because you're on circles. Why the hell are we in circles?
Well, I was on circles because I wasn't blocking everything on the circle.
First of all,
I don't hate it, to be honest with you.
I do though. But I kind of hate everything today because that Dynamite was a waste of my fucking time last night. So I'm kind of curmudgeon-y in general. I actually don't hate the circles. Are there more than circles though?
Well, yeah, there's three default.
There's like
camera
smaller
views.
rectangles.
Yeah, which actually this looks terrible. I don't like.
Yeah,
that
why
at
is it
all.
yell?
I don't know. It changed when you.
What
when
the
you hit
hell?
that.
Why is it yellow? So this is the normal way.
Yeah.
But
Which
then
is
you
like
can
full
do,
screen, you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you can go boom. See, I feel like I wish I like the circles, but I feel like I wish we were closer. I wish the two circles were slightly.
Yeah, they are a bit far apart.
That's a big gap in the middle. I don't like the big gap in the middle.
Now, if we had like a new layout where something was in the middle there, that would be
yeah.
Cool.
Fernando, again, wrestling is subjective. I appreciate you being here with us every Tuesday and Thursday. Dynamite was terrible last night. Not a good show. Good stuff on it. Good matches. There was some fun stuff. Overall, coming out of a pay-per-view with the way that pay-per-view ended, garbage. A garbage Dynamite for coming out of a pay-per-view with how that pay-per-view ended and what we got about that, which Drew has been talking about. Not good. So again, I appreciate your positivity. We are Love Wrestling here. We don't try to come on here and talk negative all the time. And that's not what we're trying to do. But last night's show was a stinker. It stunk.
And you know what the funny thing is that parts of the show didn't stink.
Agreed.
But the mood was set by the start of the show that really affected my viewing for the entire night.
As it should.
Like I was just.
What do you mean?
You
didn't like the Young Bucks?
The show.
You didn't like the Young Bucks coming out and saying absolutely nothing? You didn't like that? Shout out to Hangman and saying it was a peace offering, so they did it for literally no reason. Cool. Yeah. It's the best.
And then
so glad
but it wasn't
because
I'm just about to get into the Kenny Omega part of this, which was even worse.
Which I love Kenny Omega, but that part was even worse than the first half because what the fuck was Kenny Omega talking about?
Dookie.
What the hell was
the show should have just been Dookie. I should have just said Dookie. Can I change that?
And I'm
Can you change it to Dookie?
I don't think so. I don't think so. But my God, when Kenny Omega came out, it got me excited
Yeah,
because
me
I
too.
was like, this is a terrible explanation by the Bucks, which I expect because, like, again, I'm a Young Bucks guy, but they've been phoning it in for 2 years. So I didn't expect anything. I didn't expect anything grandiose from the Bucks. So it is what it is. But at the same time, then Kenny Omega comes out, and I'm like, oh shit, Kenny and the Bucks. All right, this could be
Yeah.
good.
I
Like,
didn't you
ooh,
didn't expect him to come out either,
no,
right?
I didn't
It was
actually. And I was like, oh, all right, Kenny and the Bucks. Like, let's go. Kenny's back. The Bucks are back. Like, let's go. And then, and I get it. Kenny's kind of a quirky guy. He's always told quirky promos, and he's just a different guy. And I'm not judging him for that. But he goes in and like he just goes into this story of him and his friend, and how his friend had a couple of dogs. And every time he would go over there, the dogs would just take a shit on the floor and he would leave it there. And he says, this is when I was younger. He says, this is way back, by the way. So I'm sitting here going like, did you not have parents? Were your parents just letting you keep dog shit on the floor of your bedroom and building like what? Or do you not have friends or other people that come over to your house and go, what is wrong with you? There's just literally just poop. I just, yeah. And then he kind of turned it around to, oh, when I left, you turned this place. And it was just a very weird, it was a very weird thing for me.
Yeah, it was like, "Oh, I'm gonna talk for 6 minutes to just say, you guys ruined the company while I was
Yeah. Yeah.
gone."
Yeah.
It was one sentence, doesn't take more than 5 seconds to say, but we're
Yeah.
gonna get there in 6 minutes.
Yeah. It was just, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. It
Let me tell
felt,
you how this felt to me. Maybe you
yeah.
felt the same way. This felt like nobody had no idea what the fuck they were gonna say when they went out there. They just were like, "Okay, uh, Matt and Nick were like, okay, we got to explain our actions. So
Mhm.
here's just gobbledygook that we're just going to sputter out of our mouths." And then and then in the same vein, Kenny's like, okay, I have to take everything that they just said and make sense out of it and talk about dog shit. And we have to tie this somehow into them making the company dog shit while I was gone. And I
You know
just
what?
am sitting here going, this just there was no script for this. I felt like 10 minutes of the show,
Yeah. It feels
and
like they almost made the decision to end the pay-per-view the way they did just to do it, with no actual thought of why the Bucks would do that whatsoever. Because them coming out and saying we did it for Hangman, first of all, no, Hangman was already down there trying to do it for himself. So you didn't do it for Hangman. You actually did the exact thing that Hangman didn't want to happen, I believe. Then you don't, like Fernando said, the one thing that he was critical about is he said he wanted to hear more about the documents. Kenny referenced the documents.
in
Kenny
the
referenced,
shittiest way possible.
yeah, like he didn't go into detail about it, but he at least referenced that they did that. He brought that back to the surface that they were doing the document shredding. Didn't go into I mean, he basically said it
Well,
was for what? Expenses, like
yeah, it was
jets
for
and like rich people
expenses and
things.
a chair in their master bedroom facing the.
Yeah, and then he started.
It
Didn't he
was
start to like before he trailed off or something? Didn't he start to like say OnlyFans shit too?
yeah,
Like, didn't he like
uh,
throw that in there? Like as
yeah.
that's like a negative. I don't know. The whole thing just felt very. I was excited for the guys that were out there in the ring, but I wasn't excited for a fucking word they were saying because none of it
No, because
meant anything or made sense.
as it was going on, I was going, "Oh my god, this is really what they decided to say."
Yeah, it was just very weird. It was
um,
just like, what are we like? This is the explanation. You haven't been there for 6 months. You come back and you help the guy that you were running from the last time we saw you beat the guy that everybody, and when I say everybody, you heard that crowd reaction last night. Everybody, Swerve is the guy.
yeah.
Okay. I think that argument, you want to argue up, and look, and I'm a Hangman Page guy, but guess what, man? Swerve is the guy. You know how many people they had at that pay-per-view on Sunday in the arena? Almost 8,000 people. That's like double what they normally do on a weekly basis. And that's a good gate for AEW. And they were there for Swerve. 1,000%. They were
Swerve's
there
family was even
for
there.
Swerve. And
Uh,
you ended the pay-per-view the way you did, which again, I wasn't against, you weren't against. I was like, hey, well, all right, let's see. And then you follow up with this. What the hell? What the
yeah.
hell? Because now I'm afraid, Drew, that we're going to be running into All In 2.5 months from now, and it's going to be Ospreay going after Moxley. And I think there's a chance the crowd rejects it because they want it to be Swerve. I think that's where we're potentially heading with this. Potentially. And I think that could be a problem.
It is a problem.
I think that could be a problem.
I have to say that, like you said, like I love everybody that was in that ring, but I'll say for Kenny at least, Kenny just didn't even feel like he believed what he was saying.
No.
Like the way that he was, I know a passionate Kenny Omega promo. That was not a passionate Kenny Omega promo at all.
It almost
like,
good.
It felt like he was like half joking. He was even throwing jokes, like the OnlyFans thing in the chair with the expenses.
Yeah.
It was like, it just felt like a half joking promo. It felt like it wasn't almost, even like real.
It felt like to me that
he was
it felt like to me that he was only out there to get to the second half of this, where Okada came out. Like I felt like he was only there to get to that, because like again, anything he said in that promo, like I get it. He was leading to the point where he said, "Hey, when I was gone, you guys fucked this place up." Like that's where he was getting to. But just the presentation, and it sounded like he was talking he always talks kind of quieter, and this is how he cuts his promos.
Yeah.
But it just felt like he didn't give a shit about what he was saying. And if he doesn't give a shit about what he's saying, how is the viewer gonna give a shit about what? And Sunday said, I didn't mean to, again. Will I personally be excited for Will Ospreay and Jon Moxley? Yeah, I will. I will be. However, I think the crowd kind of told you last night in these first couple segments, because we see Swerve right after, like at the end of this, right after this. Like I think the crowd kind of told you last night that, Swerve is their choice. Swerve is the choice. That's who people want. He's the guy bringing people to the arenas. He's the guy, like if you look at his viewership on the videos and the YouTube, he's the guy, man. And I think we should be heading to All In on a collision course for a Swerve and Ospreay for the title, or a Swerve and Hangman for the title. And we're going to be getting a different thing. And I just think, again, Ospreay is still a very big babyface, and the crowd loves him, as they should. I just feel like there could be a chance that it doesn't go the way that AEW has it planned, because I think they have it planned of, everybody hates this Death Rider shit so much that we're just digging into it. Like Pluggo said, like we want people to be so sick of this that when it finally ends, everyone's excited.
It's funny. It's funny that Pluggo said that.
Pluggo's been saying this for 3 months. He's been saying it for 3 months. That's what they're doing.
It turned so now I did not see where this originally came from. Because I was very busy at work yesterday, so I didn't see what exactly where the quotes came from. But I was seeing a lot of both cons and both companies don't care about what their fans feel about their wrestling shows. I saw the Nick Khan quote about not focusing on the social media fans and what they think. But apparently Tony Khan also had that same type of an answer somewhere. And I don't know where it was, because a lot of people were talking. I don't know if maybe people were just saying, "Oh yeah," because of what they're doing with the Death Riders and not having Swerve win at Dynasty. But I didn't see like a specific quote from
Yeah.
Tony Khan about that. Um, but it really, like Pluggo said, it really just feels like okay, I'm digging my heels in,
Yeah. 100%.
and I don't care how you feel about this story. This is the story that I want to tell, and I'm gonna end it whenever I want to,
Yeah. And
which
I
seems to be never, apparently.
Yeah, and I think I think that's what they're going. I think they're really I think they have the mindset that the fans are so against this that if we continue to dig our heels into it, by the time we do pull the trigger and have Mox lose, the fans are going to be ridiculously happy no matter who beats him because he doesn't have the belt. And I just don't think it's going to work that way. I just
And I
don't. Now,
wanna.
I just don't.
Oh, go ahead. You finish it though.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, do I think the crowd will be happy if Osprey is the guy? I do, and at the end of the day, like, I think the fans will be okay with it. But if like, I'm telling you, if Osprey wins the belt and their view is Osprey is the next top guy and he's going to be the babyface guy, the second he is put up against Swerve, Osprey is not the good guy anymore because Swerve is the guy.
Right.
So I kind of feel like they've not painted themselves into a corner because Osprey has people have viewed Osprey as a future world champ or he should be the guy basically since he got there. So I don't think that they've like put themselves in a corner with having to do it with Osprey, but I do think because of this Death Rider stuff, they've put themselves in a corner that the fans yeah, dude, once you put Swerve back in that position where he could be the guy, the fans want him to be the guy. So if
Yeah.
all of a sudden you tell the fans, nope, he's not the guy, this other guy is the guy, there are naturally going to be fans who are with Swerve that go, no, F you. It's not this guy that you want us to accept. It's the guy that we want.
Right. And we
Different
saw that with
situation completely,
plenty
but
of
Daniel
people
Bryan
in
and
the other
Batista.
company.
Yeah, Daniel Bryan and Batista. Like, not the same situation whatsoever, but it's happened everywhere. The fans wanted Daniel Bryan, WWE wanted Batista. And guess what? The fans rebelled. I'm not saying this is where we are in AEW, but I do think there is a section of the
Yeah,
fans
man.
that are not going to accept
I think we're getting there,
a
honestly.
guy like Will
Um,
Ospreay, which Will Ospreay has done nothing wrong besides be the guy that AEW wants him to be. But I feel like yeah, I don't know.
and I want to say one thing that I don't know if you'll like this or not, but my opinion. I 100% do not want Darby Allin to be involved in this at all.
I don't think he's going to be now that we actually had some news about him that he's actually, everybody's been saying, but nobody's heard a goddamn thing. We actually heard that, I think next week, he's
Yes,
beginning the
next
trek or
Tuesday, I think.
the 19th or 18th or 7th, something like that. He's beginning the trek to Everest, or he's like
Yeah.
starting to prepare or whatever the heck verbiage they
The
use.
climb is
Yeah.
on April 15th.
There you go. So again,
So
he's not going to be around for a little bit. Now, do I think he could be around potentially by All In? Yes. If everything goes well, that's months after April. July, that should be enough time to recover. But I don't think he's involved in he's not the wild he's not.
he's not the wild card.
So I don't think I
By
don't
the
think it
way,
matters.
and I started thinking last night, like, why are these matches even starting when there's 3 months? This is for
Because
All In.
it ends at Double or Nothing. The isn't
Why,
right,
though?
right. The finals of these are at Double or Nothing because they want the matches on pay-per-view. It's not for any other reason. They just want the big matches on the
And
pay-per-view.
then what do they do they just have their number one contender for the title, and then they have a month and a half.
Yeah.
They're just like, well, okay. Well, what the hell do they do now for a month and a half?
Yeah. Now, what's the pay-per-view in June, though? Is there
There is
not
no
one in
pay-per-view
June?
in June.
So June's like one of the only months they have
June,
this
they're
year
doing
that
like
doesn't-
these TV specials where they have like the
Okay.
Dynamite Collision
because they have a
4-hour
TV
block.
special. They have a TV special in Boston next week. So that's the spring breakthrough. That's next week.
Right.
That's a TV special. And then we have Double or Nothing at the end of May. And then in June, they're doing another TV special or so, and then they have All
But this
In
one's not.
July.
This one is live Wednesday, live Thursday TV specials. But I believe the June one is like a pay-per-view on TV where it's Dynamite and Collision.
Maria, Drew and I don't disagree. We're talking it through right now. We're still in the beginning of the show. I was a little late here. My computer decided that 2 minutes before the show is the perfect time for an update. So that was fun. But other than that, yeah, I mean, me and Drew agree that last night's episode was not great. I said it stunk. I don't think anybody's used that word. But yeah, it was not good. It was not good. And we're talking through it. We're still talking about the mess.
So
and I know
Sinner says the climb is about 6 to 8 weeks to complete.
So if he goes in April, you're talking if it takes him the full, let's just say it takes him the full 8 weeks and he does it and everything's healthy and good to go, he's coming down in June. I don't know what the recovery would be after that to get into wrestling shape. Not that I think Darby would give a shit what kind of shape he was in upon return. He'd jump off the friggin' high rise of the building if they asked him to. I think that's what it's going to be.
Yep.
I could see him potentially showing up. What if he showed up at All In and helped Ospreay win the title? Like it's kind of a payback.
As long as it leads to the title being taken off of Jon Moxley, fine. Because
he shows up at All In to let everyone know that he's alive. He helps Ospreay, but Moxley somehow still bullshits his way to the title so Darby can win it the next month.
No.
And this goes a whole fucking, and then he wins it at Grand Slam. It goes a whole fucking year getting to Darby. Finally,
I'm already
the guy
checked
that beats.
out. And I would love, okay, listen. This whole thing I said this in January when we originally heard the story and everything. The fact that this guy was going to basically be crowned as the guy in AEW and then said, oh, so yeah, this Mount Everest thing, I'm gonna go do that. And then Tony just let him. That's fucking insane.
Oh, we've talked about that numerous times on this show. How
and I don't think now, and I've really just like been thinking about this really. And I'm like, I now actually don't want Darby. I don't want Darby to come back and be the guy that takes it off of Moxley. Even though it it does make sense.
It makes the most sense. It's still to this day, it makes the most sense.
Because of how it happened.
Yes.
But now I don't want it. I don't want it because I don't think he deserves it now. Which is unfortunate.
To me, and look at originally he was supposed to do this last year. Okay. He was supposed to do this last year where they didn't have creative plans in place for him. He had just done the retirement match with Sting. He was kind of floating around, not doing much. Like he was still there and in big stuff, but he wasn't doing anything of super duper substance because it was clearly planned that he was going to be off TV doing the Mount Everest thing. He breaks his foot. He gets hit. Yeah, he gets hit by a bus. He breaks his foot in a match or whatever he does. He can't do it. Okay, cool. Then he comes back in the summer and they clearly start plans that if you're a wrestling fan and you, especially a wrestling fan for a long time, and you've kind of seen every wrestling storyline there can be and whatnot, the plans when this whole Death Riders thing started clearly outlined that at the end of the plan, Darby would be the guy that gets his revenge on Moxley and takes the belt from Moxley. And then you have a brand new, first time ever AEW World Champ, one of the 4 pillars. He's that guy. Clear as day when they start this, that is how this angle should end. And I don't know if there were hard conversations. I don't know. But if I'm Tony Khan, I don't know how you can start that angle even knowing that there is an ounce of a chance that he's doing the Everest thing again. He's going to try it this year, because how can you do that? Because now you're in a situation now where Darby probably should have already beaten Jon Moxley for that world title already. He probably should have done it at Revolution or even earlier than that. But he already should have beaten Jon Moxley for that title. And he's been off TV for however long preparing for this, because he needs to, so he doesn't die going up Mount Everest, which is still a possibility, by the way. One of your 4 pillars as a businessman. You're just totally cool with there's a chance he's going to go do something where he literally doesn't come back. It's just, when I try to look at it from a business perspective and as a manager, I get it. Like,
it's the dumbest decision you could ever make.
But I get it. Like, you don't want to be the guy that also prevents your workers from attaining life goals, right? So, like, it's one of those things where you need to be there for your people as well. But when you're running a multi-million, billion-dollar there's a little bit different. You're not running a fucking hardware store. Okay? You're running a wrestling company that just signed a fucking $800 million deal for 5 years or whatever the fuck it is. Like, so when you go to one of your top guys, you say, hey, how about you do that on my time? Like, I tell you when you can go do that.
Yeah.
I know there's only certain windows that you can do it. That's fine. But you're under contract with me, so I'm going to tell you the year that you can go do it. Last year was cool. This year ain't, buddy. So plan ahead.
There's always next year.
Correct.
So, yeah. So I just don't... for him to just come in whenever it is that he comes in, and then they just like, oh yeah, so that thing that happened in September, remember when we started telling the story? We're just going to continue it now, which would be like almost a year later. That's stupid as hell.
Yeah.
So I don't want that anymore. I while it made sense, if it means that Jon Moxley leaves All In still as the world champion, there will no longer be a firmly AEW with me on it. I'm telling you right now, I am not fucking bullshitting you. Firmly AEW is dead if Jon Moxley leaves All In as world champion. I'm telling you that right now. And you're going to have to find a new host if you want to continue doing it. I'm done.
I don't think we'll have to worry about that. I think All In is really going to be the end of the story.
I hope not.
Well, I think Fernando is kind of on the case. I do think that we are gonna. That's what it's going to be at All In, because they teased it last night, and Swerve even teased it. I don't know if he meant to or not, but we are 100% getting a Swerve and Hangman alliance. That is happening here. I would
definitely.
I would expect that at All In, another big match that'll be on that show is Swerve and Hangman teaming up to face the Bucks. I think that will be another match. Like, that's going to be an All In match, is going to be Swerve and Hangman together fighting the Bucks. I would expect that to be on that card,
which is like, okay, I guess.
And when we saw it,
good,
like, I know we're still talking. We haven't even gotten to the Swerve part of this yet. First of all,
right? Yeah, let's get it. Let's do that now.
Yeah, and I know you talked about it, and we don't have to harp on it. What a disappointment the Moxley Shibata match was. I was genuinely looking forward to that match, and it wasn't bad by any means, but it was like 10 minutes. It was just like, all right, it just should have been way better to me. Should have just been way better to me. I think we're going to get, well, they said blood and guts. Swerve teased blood and guts last night after his match when he was kind of talking to the camera. I think he mentioned blood and guts.
He did.
So it makes me think that maybe we get Swerve and Hangman teaming up on blood and guts, maybe. Because he said, but I do agree. We're going to get Swerve and Hangman in one of those matches, Anarchy in the Arena, Blood and Guts, Stadium Stand. It's going to be one of those, but but that's going to be a bigger group. That's going to be a group thing. Yeah, Swerve, right. Hangman, Kenny, Speedball, maybe Osprey, those 5 versus the Death Riders and the Bucks. Because now, unfortunately, after this match, we talked about the Bucks and the Kenny stuff. Kenny gets in the ring to say, all right, let's just fight. Enough talking. Let's just fight. He gets in the
Could have
ring.
just started it that way.
Could have just went, you know. And he mentioned in the promo, he said, last time I was here, you guys tried, I was at the worst of my diverticulitis, and you guys tried to end me, literally end me. But like I said, when I first came back, I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for my legacy, and I'm here for this company. So I understand why he didn't run in there and fight them right away, kind of. But the last time you saw these guys, they literally tried to kill you. So again, the same reason why I said I was kind of not as high on the Jey Uso thing on Monday as everybody else. It's like, bro, last time you saw this guy, he was trying to kill your brother. Kenny, last time you saw these guys, they literally tried to kill you. Kill you.
But he did explain that he forgave
He
them.
did, but still. But anyway, at the end, he goes, I'm going in there to fight you. And then we see Okada. And I don't know if Okada lost his luggage or something, but that suit was 5 times too big for Okada. I don't know what the hell he was wearing.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
Very weird. He's usually very, very nice looking and tailored, and his suits fit to perfect. That thing looked like it should have been on me. But regardless of that, he gets in the ring.
And then they start beating down Kenny.
They start beating down Kenny. And then Swerve shows up. He has a chair. He slides in. They run off. And then it's Swerve and Kenny in the ring. They do a little bit of a fist bump. Kenny gets out of there. And then Swerve grabs the mic. And when Swerve grabs the mic, he says it's buck hunting season, which I liked. I thought that was fun.
Yeah, that was a nice one.
Do you ever play the game Buck Hunter? And like the bars and the stuff? Oh, no. Okay. Well. And he says he's ready to blast some EVPs. And then almost immediately after that, Pac, who Swerve is fighting, Pac and Swerve were having a wrestling match. He attacks Swerve and starts beating him down. And then we go to the commercial, and then we come back, and they're having this match. And unfortunately, a few minutes into this match, Pac was on the outside at ringside, and he must have hurt an ankle, hurt a knee, something like that. And the referee was checking on him, and the match kind of got stopped. And, you know, whether this was a good thing or not, Pac was clearly hurt. But instead of just stopping the match, Pac pushed the doctor away and got back in the ring and was lit like just enough for him to hobble on one foot to take a super kick and take the double stomp and the pin. Whether that was the best thing for him to do or not, it is what it is. I think it shows his professionalism. I'm one of those guys. I understand why people would be like, no, you're injured, be better. I get that. But at the end of the day, he's been injured a lot in his career. He's probably frustrated. He wants to finish the match, you know? So they finish the match.
You should get a lot of praise for that.
I think he should. I think he absolutely should.
Because he didn't like continue to wrestle for 10 minutes. He was just like, all right, let's just.
He's like, I just want to get in there. Let me take the bump, and don't care. I'm not having this match stopped. And I think that he does deserve credit for that. Just such a bummer, dude. The injury bug is hitting AEW right now currently. And it's a bummer. It's a bummer for real. Jay White out. Orange Cassidy out. Hopefully Pac is not. I didn't see any reports of what it was or the severity of it. Hopefully it's just a twisted ankle or something not too serious. But it clearly was an ankle or knee or foot injury of some sort. He couldn't put any weight on it. But hopefully it's nothing too long, but the injury bug is definitely kicking up with AEW, which is unfortunate. So that's what happened here. And then, like I said, after the match, Swerve is kind of talking to the camera, and he's talking to the Bucks some more, and he does mention blood and guts. Mm-hmm. Now, he could have been referencing the blood and guts match from last year where he beat the Bucks in the Elite, and it was Team Swerve versus them. But it felt like maybe that could have been a hint at something that maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But if we fast forward a little bit, later on in the evening, Renee Paquette is backstage and Hangman is jetting by. And she tries to stop Hangman to ask him about the wild card in the Owen Hart tournament. And he's clearly still, frazzled and, going through whatever he's going through mentally. And he says, how am I supposed to prepare? I don't even know who the hell I'm fighting. And he goes, and I'm on my way to do something, so leave me alone. And then you see him walk into Swerve's dressing room. And when he walks in there, he's yelling, where's Swerve? And Prince Nana is in there. And no Swerve is there. Just Prince Nana. And Hangman says, I just want to let you know that when I showed up in that match on Sunday, I was not there to help Swerve. And he goes, that's it. I just
That
need
was
you
what
to.
last Thursday I said that would probably be what would happen.
Yep. So then Hangman starts to leave, and Nana says, hey, wait a minute. And he goes, I can't speak for Swerve. And Nana starts to apologize for some of the stuff that happened last year. But Hangman stops him immediately. He goes, nope. He goes, you don't get to do that. You don't get to say that. You're not apologizing. You don't get to say that. And then he leaves, and that's how the segment ends, which I thought was very good. I thought that was very good.
Anything isn't there like
Swerve and Hangman are separate because that's really good, and everything else feels like we're flying by the seat of our pants.
Isn't it funny how it seems that whenever two certain people are shown on television, something ends up being great, but everything else is like dog shit.
It's just,
Hangman and Swerve. It's interesting how, you could feel really shitty about something and then they just pop up on TV and you go, oh, hey. And you get a smile on your face.
Yeah. It's almost like
you
they're the
enjoy
two
what
best.
they do.
It's almost like they're the two best guys there, Drew. I don't know. Almost.
You could say that, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, look at AEW has a great roster, male and female. They got a great roster, but it's clear the way that Swerve and Hangman, especially together, are booked. There's clearly thought behind it, everything they do. And I feel like that thought that is put behind them is not put behind almost everything else we see. And it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me how you can be so perfect with this, but yet everything else is kind of a jumbled mess at times. It's very bizarre.
Hey, they were close to it last Wednesday.
They were. You never know. You never know. I think at this point, they're going to end up teaming up. And, however you feel about that is however you feel about it. But I feel like that's where we're going, man. That's where we're going. So,
yeah. It's not. There's just. I feel really apathetic to most of the AEW product at the moment. It's just, like, all right, it's something to get somewhere else, and that somewhere else is generally mid. And we're just, and I don't know what the hell happened in the last couple weeks because things seem to be like.
Yeah, I know what the hell happened is because in the back of our minds, we all thought that Swerve was winning on Sunday.
Yeah.
And then he didn't. And now we know, again, I don't hate on the Death Riders as much as some. Like, I like everybody involved with the Death Riders. I actually like Moxley. I thought Moxley's promo, the timeless stuff was excellent too, but that's kind of over with. Now we need to see where she goes from here. That was the timeless Mariah thing that was excellent. I think they made the wrong decision by having Megan Bayne lose on Sunday. So I'm not upset that Tony's still the champ because she's wonderful. I would have had Megan Bayne win. So again, I need to see where they go from here with Toni Storm. I know she's going to be great at whatever she does because she's the best wrestler in the world. But the story that was excellent was only timeless in Mariah. Besides that, Toni Storm has had good things in AEW, but not to that level. So we need to see. Now, if they keep RJ City with her and writing her stuff and being the main thing, then yes, I do believe it will stay excellent because that guy knows what he's doing. That guy knows what he's doing. But the guys that are in charge of the main storyline, I question sometimes. But yeah, I don't know. But as we continue along with the show, they kind of threw together this big 8-man tag. They called it a $400,000 8-man tag. So every winner would get $100K. That's kind of what they were doing there. Except but we had these backstage, these not even backstage. Ricochet's was outside. No, Yeah, Ricochet and his team, which was Ricochet, Beast Mortos, and Crew, which was Action Andretti and oh my god,
Leo Rush.
Leo Rush. They were in a stairwell, and Ricochet was very clearly talking as if he was going to win the $400,000 and keep it all himself.
Yeah, he was the captain.
He was the captain, and then you went to the other side of it, where they were outside, and it was Mark Briscoe, Will Ospreay, Speedball Mike Bailey, and Kevin Knight, and these guys were talking like a team. Mark Briscoe was, again, just perfect and everything. You want to know another guy that's perfect? Mark Briscoe is perfect. Mark Briscoe is perfect. Mark Briscoe is just doing what he does, just cutting a ridiculously great promo, but he's talking, and so you notice right away, Ricochet is like, I'm the team captain. I'm going to win $400,000. Blah, blah. There's a lot that I could do with $400,000. That's how Ricochet's talking. And then you go to the other team, and Mark Briscoe's like, yo, $400,000. We're all going to be $100,000 richer. What are you going to do with $100,000? What are you? And they all go back and forth. Hey, he asks Ospreay. Ospreay says, I'm going to do this. Ospreay goes to Speedball. What are you going to do? Speedball says, I'm going to buy some shoes. Speedball, love you. That's a fucking lie, buddy. You ain't buying shoes. I know you ain't buying shoes. That's a lie. And then Speedball's like, Kevin Knight, what are you going to do? He's like, I'm going to Magic City. All right, they got good chicken fingers, I've heard. That's the thing. That's the thing. I think there's some other entertainment there you might like, but I've heard they got good chicken wings or something.
I didn't
like
know
that.
what that was at first, but
it was what I've heard
to me later on.
Yeah. So then Ospreay goes, hey, Mark, what are you going to do? And Mark Briscoe, which you would expect from the way he acts, was going to say something wild, but he doesn't. He actually goes, actually, I'm going to try to diversify my portfolio. And then there's a little bit of a pause. Everyone laughs. You can hear the crowd laughing. I laughed because it was hilarious. Then there's a little bit of a pause, and then Briscoe goes back into his, but that's besides the point. And he starts going back into his Mark Briscoe. Excellent.
Yeah, that was great.
And then the 8-man.
I believe Ospreay said he was going to go to Disneyland.
Yes, Disney World. I think he said Disneyland or Disney World. He said one of them. He said he was doing that. Bailey was going to buy shoes. Kevin Knight was going to go to Magic City. And yes, Mark Briscoe. I think it is. Yes. But I've heard the food is good. And then, yes, Mark Briscoe said he was going to diversify his stuff, which was a lot of fun. And it was funny. And the 8-man tag, as you would expect,
was really good. It was the best thing on the show.
It was really good. It was my second favorite match of the night. But I do agree. It was a lot of fun. Again, Kevin Knight, man. Kevin Knight looks like a star. They made Kevin Knight look so good in this.
He got the pin.
He did, as he should.
This was really good. I'm very happy for his trajectory in this company.
Yep. Again, these are eight good guys, especially on the winning team. Those 4 guys are, they're
the
studs.
thing is that on this show, a very, very good decision that was made was following up with who was on the pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Knight gets a win. Speedball is on the show. Megan Bayne is on the show. People who had really phenomenal performances, but lost, were on the show and did very good things.
You had 3 of them in this. You had 3 of them in this match. So
right, yeah.
I think you nailed it there. I think you perfectly nailed it, because you had Speedball, who was in arguably the best match at the pay-per-view, but lost. You had Kevin Knight, that was in one of the best matches on the pay-per-view, but lost. You had Mark Briscoe, who was in another one of the better matches on the pay-per-view.
Ricochet
lost. Ricochet lost.
5 people.
You had a bunch of people in this match that were coming off losses that, again, Ricochet lost again, but that's fine with his character. But like those 3, like Speedball, Briscoe, and Kevin Knight, for them to have this type of match and this type of performance after the performances they had on Sunday, but come out victorious, that is the way to do it. That is the way. Megan Bayne didn't fight tonight, but she had last night, she had a backstage segment where she clearly, Penelope kind of did most of the talking for her, but at the end, she kind of pushed everybody away and frightened Renee. And she was like, I'm going to make everybody bow down to me. So I think that's a thing. And I think that's a great point you brought up, Drew, because I do think that that's a thing that AEW should be focusing on is, hey, who was just on the pay-per-view? Okay. Who needs shine coming out of the pay-per-view? Okay. Who needs a bounce back coming out of the pay-per-view? You know, like kind of like keep that in mind more, because there's been a lot of times where they build things up to a pay-per-view. That person has a great match and loses, and then we don't see them for 3 weeks. And it's like, okay,
Right.
well, that was my concern about Megan Bayne losing to Toni Storm on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Was now
She
the
was
way
on
that
Dynamite, and now we know she's going to be on Collision.
correct.
So
And like the way
that's
that
exactly what
match,
they should do.
the way that match played out, because both of us thought that Megan Bayne should have went over on Sunday, but when we both came onto the post show on Sunday, we both actually said, the way that match played out, I thought they did it right. They did it right, the way that the match played out. So again, this is not coming from somebody or both of us who are upset that Toni is still the champion. We just thought that it would be a cool, different type of thing for Megan to win. But again, they made her look like a badass last night. Even in a backstage segment, she looked like she's pissed that she lost, and everybody's gonna pay. Mm-hmm. And for what you saw besides the match on Sunday, from what we've seen from Megan Bayne, that's what we should expect, is everybody to pay, because she's a beast. So right. I think they did a good job there as well. Yeah, I mean, after the 8-man, we got a recap of FTR turning on Adam Copeland. They announced that Adam Copeland is going to be out indefinitely, they said. He re-injured his neck, so I don't know what that means, but indefinitely. So I don't expect to see Copeland around
until
for a bit.
It's time for Christian to turn baby.
For Christian, yes, correct. Tony Schiavone, though, went off on FTR.
Oh my God, yeah.
Went off. You know what that means? Because FTR is on Collision on Saturday. And you know who the main announcer is on Collision. Something's happening to Tony. Something's happening to Tony on Saturday, I think.
R.I.P.
Hope not. We like Tony Schiavone, but that makes me think that because Tony went so hard on FTR.
Yeah, there was a reason for that. He doesn't do that often.
Not often. Besides,
well, no,
like MJF.
Okay, I'm sorry. I won't say it's not that he doesn't do that often. It's that they don't focus on him when he's doing that.
Correct. This was like a clear focus on Tony going ham about FTR, calling them terrible role models, he was just going in on FTR. And I think that was done very on purpose, because I expect FTR to not make Tony's life good.
Tony's getting a shatter machine on Saturday.
No. I don't know. But something. Concerto,
please
maybe?
Don't do that.
I feel like they could give him a concerto. Like that would protect Tony. That would protect Tony where he doesn't have to actually take a bump.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? They give him one. He could be going on vacation. I know he used to do minor league baseball for the Braves. I don't know if he still does that outside of AEW, but minor league baseball is going. Baseball is just start. I don't know if he has time planned off or he has a vacation, whatever, but they could play into that if they wanted to give him. I feel like that's a move that he could take where he's protected. He's really not going to get hurt, and he doesn't have to physically take a bump.
Right.
Shatter machine for an announcer to take, especially a guy like that could be scary. Yeah.
Excalibur, Nigel, not Tony.
Yeah. Fernando, yes, he does, but that was 30 years ago, man. Almost 40 years ago that he was doing that type of stuff. That's not now. It's not now, man. He is not that. That's not we're not talking about the same Tony here. We're talking about a much older Tony Schiavone.
Yeah.
All right. Then it was time for the Hurt Syndicate Championship celebration. Drew, Lou's ready to party. He was like, I heard you were talking about a celebration. And I said, yes, sir. And he was like, well, I am here. Hurt Syndicate makes their way, MVP makes their way to the ring. They make their way in. He says, this is an official announcement from the Hurt Syndicate. He goes, Punks, jump up to get beat down. 2 more challengers stepped up and 2 more challengers got beat down. He goes, so let's have a toast. They start to have a toast. They put the belts on a nice little podium. They hold the drinks up. And as they're about to clang the drinks and drink them, MJF's music hits, Drew. MJF comes out. The crowd is actually chanting, he's our scumbag at first, like pretty decently loud. They started doing that. Lashley is upset from the jump. Lashley is upset from the jump that MJF is out there. MVP's trying to calm Lashley down. Max is very much acting like he's already just part of the group. And he says that Tony Khan wanted me to do the Owen. But why? He goes, so I can wrestle every week and sweat my balls off like some schmuck. He goes, no, I'm smarter. I work smarter, not harder. And now that I'm rolling with you guys, I get to cut the line and get my Triple B back. He goes, this is a perfect business relationship. I scratch your back, you scratch mine, and we all know that on Sunday you guys wouldn't have won without me. He goes, and now you get to help little old me, and we all win. Now, it's very important to pay attention to the 3 Hurt Syndicate people during this, because if you look at Shelton Benjamin and you look at MVP, when MJF is saying this stuff, they're both kind of like they're smiling. They're like, they're like, do you believe this guy? Look at this guy, fucking smart ass. Like they're kind of like, oh, this fucking guy, like that's their info. But Bobby is pissed. Bobby is like, I want to kill you, and the other 2 are like, Max, like kind of like that type of thing. So then Lashley grabs a mic and he says, I need you to shut your mouth. He goes, everybody saw what you did last week. You tried to help. That's really cute. He goes, but you didn't get the job done. He goes, what happened was I had to get Big Bill back in the ring and break him in half with the spear to get the job done. So nice try, but it didn't work the way that you think it did. And then MJF starts going, hey, and he starts raising his voice a little bit. And Bobby's like, don't raise your voice at me, bro. Like, I'll break you in half. And things get really heated. MVP steps in the middle. He's like, everybody calm down. And he's like, Shelton, give me a second. He goes, all right, here's what we're going to do. He goes, the 3 of us, he goes, you get 3 thumbs up, you're in, but there needs to be 3 thumbs up. And MVP goes, you all know where I stand. Like I'm thumbs up. You all know where I stand. And he goes, Shelton first. And Shelton immediately puts his thumbs down. So we don't even get to Bobby because there's a thing later on too, which I assume we'll talk about after this. But go ahead with the Shelton.
I was expecting Shelton to do this, and then Bobby was going to do this.
Correct,
because
that's
seemingly what it was setting up. But then
that's
Shelton
what I thought.
Thumbs down immediately. It's like, oh, yeah, well, okay.
So he does thumbs down. Yep.
So
and
leave.
Then Bobby hugs Shelton like he's excited, like, yeah, Shelton, that's what I'm talking about. And he hugs Shelton, and they leave. And then MVP kind of looks at Max. He shrugs, like, I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. And he leaves too. And then MJF kind of shoves the camera out of his face, and he kind of angrily.
I didn't hate the segment, but
no.
It was kind of redundant a bit because they already did a segment where they voted for MJF to be in Hurt Syndicate, and Bobby already said no. Yeah. So I don't know why we were doing it again.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's because he already said no, but then he said, you have to prove it to me. You know, like he said no, and then he was like, you got to prove that you're going to.
Well, MVP said that, not Bobby.
Yeah, yes. And then MJF in his eyes proved that he did, that he earned it. And now, I don't know, because later on, the Hurt Syndicate are backstage. They're being interviewed backstage. They're asked about MJF. And Bobby says, I don't want to talk about MJF anymore. He goes, I said what I said. I go, I don't like him. We don't need him. And then Shelton then says, I agree that we don't need anybody. He goes, but you have to admit, little George Costanza is kind of funny. So he cracks the line, calls him Little George Costanza, which made me laugh. Bobby Lashley, though, he's not even in the mood that he's accepting the joke. Like he doesn't laugh. He's not thrilled by even Shelton kind of joking around, and he just walks off angrily. And Shelton looks at MVP and he goes, I'll talk to him. And he walks off. So you have to be under the assumption now that MVP and Shelton are now aligned with MJF joining the group. And Shelton is going to be talking to Bobby to soften Bobby on it. But then in my mindset, when I saw this, because MJF comes in after, and we'll talk about that in a sec. But when this specific part before Shelton leaves, if Shelton was thinking, oh, well, I agree, we don't need him, but he is kind of funny. And then he talks to MVP and he says, I'll talk to Bobby. Don't worry about it. Then why did you give the thumbs down earlier?
Right. Made no sense
because that
at all.
shows me that you are with MVP and you kind of are okay with MJF joining. If you're going to talk to Bobby about it. So why the fuck did you do the thumbs down? Doesn't make sense. But either way, MJF rolls up after Shelton and Bobby leave. He talks with MVP privately. He says, do I look like a female dog to you? And MVP kind of doesn't say anything. He goes, because Bob and Shelton keep treating me like a punk bitch out there. And he goes, I'm MJF. Do they know who they're dealing with? And MVP goes, yeah, that's the problem. They know exactly who they're dealing with, Max. He goes, your reputation precedes you, my friend. He goes, I'm a businessman. And he goes, and I know the answers to problems like this. He goes, you figure out what the consumer wants and you give it to him. And he walks away.
If AEW did that.
Yep. And he goes, and you give it to him. And MVP walks away, and you can see MJF kind of like, oh, like he's having an epiphany or something. Like he's thinking like, oh, all right, whatever. And that was it. And that was it for the Hurt Syndicate section of the evening. So again, there was stuff I did like, but there was also parts of it where I was like, that doesn't really go in line with everything you just showed me. Like I didn't dislike anything of this. I'm pro this storyline. I like MJF being involved. An MJF Bobby match one-on-one, if that's what we're leading to, I'm all in. Like I'm good with that. Like I like it. And I like MJF being involved with them and potentially joining them. I just feel like there was a little bit of confusion where you have Shelton giving the thumbs down that he doesn't want MJF in the group, but then 30 minutes later in the back, he's joking around with MVP saying like, oh, I'll talk to Bobby about it. Like, it's cool. We'll get him in here. And it's like, well, that doesn't match up to your actions, Shelton.
Right. Now, Fernando brought up something that I did not think about until he mentioned it. And what we forgot to mention is when Tony Schiavone was berating FTR.
Yes.
I don't remember the sentence, but he said the word pinnacle.
FTR and MJF do have a history.
And they want the tag team gold back.
They do.
And you could say there would be 3 men versus 3 men in that case.
Mm-hmm.
With MJF and FTR and MVP, Bobby and Shelton.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be a very interesting thing to have FTR and MJF pair up again.
Yep, I agree.
Because at this point now, I don't think MJF is joining MVP and the Hurt Syndicate.
You think?
You think that they might do that stuff?
Well, no, but I think that this is leading to MJF and Bobby having a match, and if MJF wins, he joins. I feel like that's what we're going to kind of get here. Because I think MVP from the jump has already been in it. It seems like Shelton has been swayed to be pro MJF. So I feel like that's what we're going to get kind of week after week. It's going to be Shelton and MVP trying to convince Bobby. Bobby's going to stand firm and say no. And then it's going to be, okay, well, let's have a match. If I beat you, I'm in the Hurt Syndicate. If I don't beat you, I'll drop it. And I think it could happen a double or nothing, like Fernando says. That could happen. I don't know when it will happen, but I feel like that's what we're getting to. And then you could either do
what's
MJF.
What's going to happen is Bobby will finally go, stuff. Okay, you know what? All right. He's earned my respect.
Mm-hmm.
And then FTR come out and attack them. And then it turns out, he was never actually going to join the Hurt Syndicate. He just wanted to get them on his side and trick them. And now FTR go after the tag titles. That'll probably what ended up happening.
Which I would be okay with, because I feel like
that, actually.
When you get to All In, I feel like the tag title match is going to be FTR versus Copeland and Christian. I feel like that will be the tag title match at All In. So,
there you go.
I feel like that's what it is, right? So that's the only thing that gives me pause. I think it makes perfect sense.
I don't think it would be All In. I don't think it would be All In.
I think
because that's too soon to tell the story of FTR getting the.
Why not? Why couldn't we still have a month until?
All we still have over a month when FTR are going to win the tag titles.
Yeah, which is fine, and then you have 2 months to get to All In, because there's no pay-per-view in June.
No, you think
All In is when they went? No.
It's not going to be Double or Nothing.
Why not?
Because if we're telling the story the way that what Fernando said and how we're doing it, MJF and Bobby Lashley would happen at Double or Nothing.
Which is fair. I don't think you have to wait for the pay-per-view for FTR to win the titles. You can do that on a special pay-per-view on TV in June. You can do that on a special Dynamite in June, or Collision. You don't have to. I don't think you have to wait for a pay-per-view for FTR. I think if you're going to do Copeland and Christian teaming up together, you want them to be teaming up at All In. It's your biggest show of the year. You're making that WrestleMania. You're making All In is now your new top show every year. Like, that's what you've made All In these last 3 years. If Edge and Christian are going to be teaming up again, which I think is the direction they're going, you are going to want them teaming up at All In.
It's too soon.
Sorry. Hate to tell you. I don't disagree. I think there's a match that you and I have disagreed about being too soon on the other brand that they pivoted from, and they're not doing it at WrestleMania, which was a smart decision. I don't view this as the same thing. I don't think this is too soon. It's Edge and Christian. We've seen them team 1,000 times.
Well, no, it's not.
It's not too soon.
I'm not saying that it's too soon for them to team. I'm saying that with how much stuff they have to do to get to that moment, it's not enough time.
Why is it enough time? Do you see how AEW books? Have you seen how AEW books?
But
what do you mean?
Okay, so what has to happen in order for FTR versus Edge and Christian to happen at All In for the tag titles is FTR and MJF have to join. Mm-hmm. FTR have to have a match to win the tag titles.
Mm-hmm.
And then Edge has to come back to save Christian from the
but I'm saying
patriarchy.
If they wanted to, that first half of that could happen in the next 3 weeks. If they wanted to. You could have FTR come out next week and attack the Hurt Syndicate if you wanted to, and align with MJF. And then you could have a tag title match at Double or Nothing. Again, so like, I understand what you're saying, but at the end of the day, FTR could join MJF literally on Collision on Saturday if they wanted to. Like, you don't have to wait for that. I know you probably will, but like next Wednesday, you could have another promo in the ring between MJF and the Hurt Syndicate. MJF gets sick and tired of it. FTR attacks. And then MJF goes, fine. I don't think that will happen.
MJF stories go, they usually aren't very quick like that. So that's why I'm like.
But from where we are now, All In is 3 months from now. 3 months. All of May, all of June, and most of July. It's in the middle of July. So you have 2.5 months. That is plenty of time to tell a story where FTR aligns with MJF. They do the thing with the Hurt Business. FTR has a match with the Hurt Syndicate that MJF helps them win to win the tag titles. And then Edge and Christian, that like 2.5 months is plenty of time to tell that story. If they want to tell that story that quickly. I just think if you're heading into your biggest pay-per-view of the year and Edge and Christian is on your list of things you want to happen, you're going to try to make it happen so they're fighting on that show. What else are you waiting for?
I guess.
Oh, we're gonna have Adam.
They really got to speed it up, though.
We're gonna have Adam Copeland. We're gonna have Adam Copeland and Christian reunite and have this last run as a tag team, which everyone's gonna be excited about. But let's not do it at our biggest show of the year. Let's do it at fucking Wrestle Dream. What? Not that Wrestle. I mean, it's a pay-per-view. It is what it is. But like All In and Wrestle Dream are not the same. They're not the same. If you're gonna do something big, you're gonna have it happen at All In. It's your WrestleMania. You've established that this is your new WrestleMania.
It used to be Double or Nothing.
It used to be. Yes, it used to be Double or Nothing, 100%. But now All In has been established as the biggest event of the year. Over the last 3 years, they've established that this is our big show.
Yeah.
So if something big and an Edge and Christian reunion, whether people are pro or negative about it, that is a giant thing that would happen. Especially if they were going for tag titles. That is a giant thing that would happen. You're going to make sure that that is happening at All In. You're not going to save that for Forbidden Door or Wrestle Dream. You're just not. You're going to have it happen at All In. So
you could do All Out.
You could. I think that would be a secondary choice. Maybe. So if you stretched it out,
but
where
then
it was
I feel
FTR,
like that would be too long.
So then what? At All In, you have FTR versus the Hurt Syndicate for the tag titles, and you do Edge and Christian versus Nick Wayne and Kip Sabian. And you have the big reunion first match. They get an easy win. FTR wins the tag titles, and then it All Out the next month.
Okay, I wouldn't do Copeland and Christian versus Nick and Kip at All In.
Although then what are they doing? Right?
Actually, maybe. Now that I'm thinking about it,
that's a nice little reunion. Hey-oh! All right, we're getting the match. It's an easy win that we know they're not going to lose. They get the big victory. The crowd goes nuts. Holy shit! Edge and Christian are back. Whatever. Blah blah blah. And then FTR wins the tag titles the next night. Later on in the night,
they won't do the tag titles at Forbidden Door because that's
Well, I mean, they could. But no, then, later on in the night, FTR wins the tag titles from Hurt Syndicate. And then it's like, okay, well, it writes itself now. It's going to be fucking Copeland and Christian versus FTR for I think you get to that match at All In I think that's what ideally they would probably want to do. But you could, if for some reason, see, again, I feel like we're giving too much credit. And again, we are pro AEW. But I feel like we are giving way too much credit to the booking of AEW.
I'm like 50% now.
Like when you come at me and you say that's too soon, I also say, well, look what we're talking about here.
I would have rather they started the story at Revolution, not now.
Because they did the teasing of it. They teased it for 3 weeks. They teased it for, what should have happened because the Revolution. The main event was.
What happened on Dynamite last night
so poorly at Revolution that they had to do the rematch. And everything should have just been pushed. Everything should have been pushed.
What happened? I'll tell you what happened on Dynamite last night with Hurt Syndicate and MJF should have happened the Dynamite after Revolution.
Everything should have been pushed backwards because
there was no reason for Shelton and there was really no reason for Shelton and Bobby to face Big Bill and Keith. There was no reason for it.
No. Think
So
about the last two tag matches for titles that the Hurt Syndicate had on pay-per-view. It was the Outrunners, and then it was Big Bill and Brian Keith. I don't dislike either of those teams. I don't dislike any of those guys, but neither of those teams were deserving of tag title matches at pay-per-views.
winning one or two matches, not
especially when one of them is a 30-second squash against two jobbers that we've never seen before. That doesn't make you deserve a tag title match on a pay-per-view. And the Outrunners didn't. I know they won a number one contenders match, so yes, they did.
They did more than Big Bill and Brian Keith did, at least.
Correct. When you think about what the Hurt Syndicate has done the last two pay-per-views, it's really been a waste of time for them. They've just been getting victories and retaining and continuing to look strong. But they've really been two wastes of time of matches. There were no stories that came out of them. There was no anything. I mean, the MJF stuff at the end of that was it continued the story. But there was really nothing of substance that came out of either of those
any
matches.
tag team, and
Correct.
MJF would have done that. It could have literally been anybody.
Yeah. So I do feel like if we would have just, again, I feel like we could have gotten to where we are now sooner. Because think about if what we're seeing now was happening on the way to Dynasty. Like if everything that we were on the way to Dynasty as opposed to the way to Double or Nothing, then it's like, okay, well, this happens at Dynasty, then this can happen at Double or Nothing, and then you have 2 months to build to this. Right. And you have 2 months to build to the Hurt Syndicate without the tag titles. So that builds to a giant Bobby versus MJF match at All In, which is a giant match. Then you have FTR versus Edge and Christian for the tag titles at All In, giant match. And you have all that built together. And now we feel like in order for us to get those two matches still at All In, there's going to have to be some rushing to do it because a lot of things need to happen. And it's like, okay, well, if you just would have been a little proactive and started this 3 weeks ago, we wouldn't feel that way. We'd be like, oh, this is all timing out perfectly.
Yeah.
To get to where we need to be by the time we're in July in Texas, you know? So again, I do feel like AEW still does good things. They still book well and they still do good things, but it just seems like it just feels like there's no rhyme or reason a lot of the time. Like I like where they're going here, but why is now the time? Like I feel like if you would, I don't know.
FTR could have turned on Copeland.
They should have turned on Copeland after he lost to Moxley the second time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's when they should have done
exactly when it should have happened.
That's when Dax first showed his frustration. And they did it that way. So he first showed his frustration that night, and then the next week it built, and then the next week it built. And
when
then
he could have shown his frustration after the match at Revolution.
Correct. But that match was.
And they did the turn after the second match.
And I think this all got thrown away. And maybe that was the original. Maybe that was the original plan. But this all got thrown away because of how poorly received that main event was at Revolution.
Right, yeah.
Because they were never going to have that second match. They weren't having that second match.
No.
They weren't. And look what came out of that second match. You had the nail spot. You had the frustration angle with FTR. Like, good things came out of that second match that was on Dynamite.
It was better than the first match.
It was a far better match. But, like, the reason why they had that second match was not because it was planned. It was because the main event had such a poor reception because they made that the main event.
Right.
That they had to do that. So again, when I think about the booking and the thought process of AEW, if you just would have read the room and said, hey, maybe we shouldn't be ending Revolution this way after what we're, you weren't maybe
they
we're
could have
already
they could have ended Revolution that way, but did the FTR turning tease, then did the second match after the backlash of that main event, then did the turn after that match, then the trios thing never needed to happen because we all knew that they weren't winning the match at Dynasty anyway.
Yeah.
So, like, Dynasty, the funny thing is that it worked perfectly. The turn just should have happened earlier, just like the MJF and Hurt Syndicate thing should have happened earlier, so that this way, by like you said, by All In, we have FTR and MJF together. We have the turn of FTR on Copeland. We have the patriarchy turning on Christian to reform Edge and Christian. We have the tag titles now on FTR at Double or Nothing to set up FTR versus Edge and Christian at All In.
Yep.
It would have been done perfectly like that, but now, because we're only gonna get to FTR and the Hurt Syndicate, potentially, maybe at Double or Nothing, probably not. To get to Edge and Christian FTR for the tag titles at All In will definitely be, or at least have, a rushed feeling to it.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, we'll see. Like, again, I do feel like FTR and Copeland and Christian, that is the All In match.
Yeah, I've given up and I've just said Edge and Christian now.
Yeah, me too. I don't want to be that guy, but it's Edge. When they're together, it's always going to be Edge and Christian. I'm not going to Cope and Christian. Nope, not doing it. It's fucking Edge and Christian. All right. That's who they are. All right. So, but that match is, I can't think that match will happen outside of All In. I feel like that is.
But the other thing that you said, though, about the booking that you had that we just talked about, where FTR win the tag titles at All In, and Edge and Christian fight the patriarchy.
Correct, or something like that. I'm just trying to think of other people they could face. That would make sense, because I do feel like when Christian comes back, that's going to fall apart. Because Nick Wayne is doing his own thing kind of lately, with Kip kind of being in the middle, and Mama Wayne feels like she's obviously with her son and on that. So I feel like whenever we do see Christian, which has been a while now, I think whenever we do see Christian, that is going to come to an end, or the friction will continue, and then Edge is out indefinitely. I don't know what indefinitely means. I would think at least a month. Maybe he's out through Double or Nothing. He's not planned for Double or Nothing, which is fine. Or maybe he makes a return at Double or Nothing to attack FT. I don't know, but
I would say then the patriarchy turn on Christian.
That would be my guess.
At Double or Nothing.
That would be my guess.
And then the June special thing.
Yeah.
Copeland comes back to save Christian, to reform that.
You would still have
this way they can build from the June thing to All In, the patriarchy versus Edge and Christian.
Yeah. I mean, for me though, you still have to, I don't think you need much of an explanation, but you're going to have to take a week or so to explain why Christian or Copeland would want to be helping each other. Like, obviously, I know
honestly, but I think it would have to come from Copeland more than Christian.
But yeah. But like, we know the Lifetime story. We know, it's a Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens thing. We know, like, lifelong friends that were basically brothers, hated each other, feuded, were teams for a long time, but always been friends. I get the story. But again, like, you're going to I'm going to need an explanation of why, even though these guys' friends or family on screen have turned on them both, which is what we're assuming will happen. We've already seen it with Copeland. We assume that will happen with Christian. Even though they've both been turned on by their respective friends and family, there still needs to be some sort of why. Why would you too, after everything you've been through over there and over here, since we've seen you both over here? Like Christian, you prevented Copeland from winning the world title at Revolution. You were the reason he lost. So there needs to be some sort of reconciliation / conversation / storytelling aspect to where why would these guys all of a sudden team up? Just naturally because they have no one else anymore? Like, or is there, there needs to be something a little bit more to it for me.
Well, that's why I say that he shouldn't save them from Copeland shouldn't. By the way, Dave, he does have that song. I don't know if you're. He said he should have it on this day.
Yeah, he's literally had that song since he showed up in AEW. So I don't know if you watched the product or not, Dave, but he's literally had it the whole time.
Yeah. That's why I would say that Copeland doesn't save Christian from the initial beatdown that would happen at maybe Double or Nothing, but waits until the next show where they can, I would assume what would happen is, did you do that?
No.
I didn't do that. I would assume that that threw me off for a second. Sorry, what was I saying?
Can I fix
I have to remember what. Oh, I would assume that Nick Wayne and Christian are going to have a match. Because that's obviously what they've been building to. It's not going to be Kip Sabian. It will be Nick because of everything that happened between them. So, so that match would probably happen at that June special. And the beatdown after that match, then Copeland would come out and save him. Because
I can see that happening.
I wouldn't envision that the first beatdown Copeland would come and save him, because that makes no sense.
That I would agree. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Hold on a second. Whatever. Yeah, again, I think that's what we're getting to. It's just, again, they run into another situation where even though the writing's on the wall that we're getting to it, I think they run into another situation where there's still a decent amount of story to tell with all this stuff. And it's like, okay, well, again, I'm running on the mindset that all the big stories are eventually going to lead to the culmination at All In, because I'm running on the mindset that they view All In as their WrestleMania adjacent.
I agree with you. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of the mindset that I'm doing. So maybe some of these plans aren't for All In. Maybe they are for All Out, or, after All Out, Forbidden Doors in England, whatever they're planning. I don't know, but I'm going on the mindset that they are building all this stuff for All Out. For All In Texas in July. So
right. That makes sense.
Yeah. So we'll see. But all right. Now this was my favorite match of the evening. It was a first round, I keep on saying first round because it's the first round, but it's technically the quarterfinals. They're calling it quarterfinals, even though that's when we started the tournament. So in my brain, I'm like, oh, it's the first round, but it's technically the quarterfinals. But Chris Statlander versus Thunder Rosa had a good one here. Johnny, what's going on, man? No worries about being late, my friend. Life is that. Life works that way. I was late today too, so don't hate yourself, because my computer was like, "Hey, 2 minutes before the show, update," and I was like 15 minutes late today. So it is what it is. It happens. But Chris Statlander and Thunder Rosa, they had a good little match here. Drew, I very much enjoyed this match.
Yeah.
Big time. Between these two, they both had. Statlander and Thunder Rosa. These girls are two excellent professional wrestlers. I feel like they still need to do more with Chris Statlander. I feel like she's so good.
Yeah.
She's so good. And, I just feel like they continually need to do more with her. And I think they need to do more with Thunder Rosa too, because Thunder Rosa puts on a match like this, and you're like, why isn't Thunder Rosa on TV almost weekly wrestling?
I don't know.
I know she's not a favorite backstage of some people,
Yeah,
and
I don't know if Thunder Rosa is going to be in this company.
And she rubs people the wrong way, I guess. But when you see her perform this way in the ring, it is undeniable that she's one of the best they have. She's excellent. And Statlander is excellent, and this was an excellent match.
I can't remember the last time she won a match.
Yeah. And Statlander wins, and Statlander moves on in the Owen, as she should. But this was a really
I was talking about, not Chris Statlander.
Yeah. This was a really, really good match between these two. It was back and forth. It was hard hitting. I liked it. I liked it a lot, Drew. I liked it a lot. After that, Don Callis is backstage with Kyle Fletcher and Konosuke Takeshita. He says his boys are going to meet in the finals of the Owen, and he makes a case. And then he says Takeshita is going to beat Brody King on Collision.
Which is going to happen. Yeah.
Sadly. I mean, I love Takeshita too, but you know how I feel about Brody King. If you guys are regular watchers here, you know how I feel about Brody King. He says, but look at my guys. He goes, they're jacked, they're oiled up, they're hot, and they're the talk of the town.
True facts.
And he goes, we've had a rash of injuries in the Don Callis family, so let me tell the rest of the locker room that I am accepting new applicants. So if you're interested in joining the Callis family, you see the proof in the pudding, you'll go right to the top. And that's where he leaves it. Then we get a backstage thing with the Undisputed Era and the new TNT champion, Adam Cole. He talks about how the last 2 years were not only the toughest years of his career, but they were also the toughest years of his life. And he went through a lot with the injuries and personal stuff and all that, but he's back. He feels better than ever. He's the new TNT champion. And he says, and trust me, this is just the beginning for me and for us. Roderick Strong says that him and Kyle, he thinks they're ready to go after maybe some tag team gold, which I would be, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
More than okay with that. And Adam says that they will do that because he believes in them. And he talks about, them all winning the gold. And he says it represents a new era in AEW. And he calls themselves the Paragon. Terrible name. But he calls themselves the Paragon. And he says, and that is undisputed. That's the name of the new group. That's what he called himself.
Well, what is that? What is a Paragon?
I don't know. It's a stupid name is what I think it is. But
I literally have to look that up.
So they're now called the Paragon, which whatever. Fine. You don't want to call them the Undisputed Era because you didn't really create that name. I get it. I just think the Paragon's the best you could come up with. That's not great. But anyway, I'm all for Roderick Strong.
A Paragon. I've looked it up.
Yeah.
According to Oxford, a person or thing regarded as a perfect example of a particular quality.
Okay.
Yeah. So, all right.
Fine. Cool, as they say.
So it doesn't, as long as you know what Paragon means, it makes sense. In the moment, didn't make sense to me.
Correct.
Cool.
Then we get
the end of the show, right? That was it.
No. Oh, I think we're going to disagree here.
I'm
excited
about the Chris Jericho thing.
I think we're going to disagree here, Drew, because I actually kind of like this.
I didn't hate it.
Yeah, I kind of like this a little bit. Chris Jericho first of all, I will say, did Jericho, I know he lost a tooth for real during the match with Bandito, and there was apparently some backstage heat on Bandito for that. I don't think it'll lead to anything, but apparently there was some backstage stuff with Bandito after that. But Jericho, and I'm sure it hurt. I don't know if he had to go through dental surgery or something like that, but Jericho looked, and I don't know if maybe he just looked that way because that's how they wanted him to look, but I thought Jericho looked a little ragged last night. Bloodshot eyes. He looked like a little I don't know if he was sick or they just purposefully made him look that way because he was coming off a loss and the segment he was kind of losing his mind. I don't know if it was all done on purpose or not, but he looked a little worse for wear from the jump last night. But Jericho makes his way to the ring. He says, you know, he grabs the mic. He says, "You are looking at one of the greatest legends of all time." He goes, "But I am no longer Ring of Honor World Champion." He said, "On Sunday, I lost the match. I lost my tooth. I lost my title." And he goes, "It's very disappointing." He actually gives Bandito credit. And he says, "Good on you. You beat me. Like, I'll give credit where credit's due. You won the title. You saved your mask." And he goes, "With the assistance of your intrusive siblings and stooge of a mother," he called him, which made me chuckle. He goes, "But I get it. You got his family and I have mine." And he goes, and then he calls out Brian Keith and Big Bill. They all get in the ring. He says, "I was hoping all three of us would be standing in this ring with championships tonight, but you guys didn't win the tag titles, did you?" And he goes, "And that's why I wanted to." And as he's saying this, Big Bill puts his hand over the microphone and he grabs his own microphone. He takes a step back. Jericho looks confused and he goes, "I already know what you're going to say, Chris." He goes, "You're angry. You have every right to be angry because I'm angry too." He goes, "I've been getting real angry a lot as of late." And at this point, Brian Keith is trying to stop Big Bill from talking.
Yeah.
But Big Bill says, "No, he needs to hear this." And he goes, "And I know," and he's talking to Brian Keith. He goes, "And I know you agree because you and I have been talking about this a lot." And Brian Keith is like, "Come on, man. Like, what the hell?" And then Big Bill, he puts Chris over. He says, "Hey, I respect you. You're one of the greatest and most decorated wrestlers ever in the history of this industry. That's why I joined the learning tree, because I wanted to learn from you." He goes, "But I did not sign up to be a punching bag whenever things go wrong." He goes, "So if we're out here so you can teach us something, by all means teach." He goes, "But if we're out here so you can berate and humiliate us publicly, let me know right now so I can leave." And he goes, "And I know Keith feels the same exact way." And the crowd is kind of like, "Oh shit, all right, Big Bill, way to
Yeah.
go, buddy. Way to
Keith
go."
was not happy that he was being
No,
mentioned
Keith,
there,
no,
however.
no. Keith did not want he did not want Bill to say this publicly. So Y2J kind of steps and gets closer to Brian Keith specifically. He doesn't go towards Big Bill. He goes right and gets in Brian Keith's face, a guy more of his size. And he goes, "You feel this way?" He goes, "Do you feel this way?" He goes, "Because if you do, that's not why I brought." Oh, he goes, my note page just died on me there. So hold on one second. Let me
Oh,
refresh because I had what? You're
are
right.
you no,
No,
I thought
I'm
maybe
good. I just my
something
computer has
happened to you. You're
clearly
good.
been shitty today, but I just was looking at my notes and the screen just went black and said page is not responding, but I refreshed and we're good. So I just got to kind of get
That's what
back to
happened to me
where
on
I was.
Tuesday, remember?
Is that what happened? I'm like, what the hell, bro?
Yeah,
Um,
my
so
whole screen went out and everything.
yeah. He goes, "That's not why I brought you out here." And he goes, "And if you thought that, you clearly both still have more to learn." He goes, "I believe in both of you and I care about both of you. That's why I handpicked both of you to teach you and help you." And he goes, "And if you don't need my help," wait. And then he says, he doesn't need to help any. Oh, yeah. He goes, "And I trust you." He goes, "Trust me, I don't need to help anybody if I don't want to." He goes, "I believe you're both future world champions. And that's why your victories are my victories and your failures are my failures." And he goes, "I'm empathetic for you, Big Bill, not being there when I lost the world championship. And some might say it was your fault because you weren't there." He goes, "But I'm not saying that."
But he was pointing at Big Bill
He
when
had
he
he
did
had the
said
bat and
that.
he was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "But I'm not saying that." He goes, "I don't believe that at all." He goes, "Because I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed." And he hits the I don't know if they still call it the Geritron 5000, but he hits the TV with the bat And he keeps repeatedly saying, I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed, as he repeatedly smashes the TV to oblivion with the bat. And then he goes, I'm disappointed in you guys. And until you change that, I think it's best that I leave. And he starts pushing things over.
So
And
there's a Fozzy tour, I'm assuming.
Oh, is that what it is? Oh, are you
I
just
mean,
joking?
I'm assuming
Okay.
there is.
I didn't know. 100% Ophelia. Huge dad energy. I'm not angry. That's like the prototypical dad line. I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. And so he leaves and he's pushing stuff over. He's still hitting things with the bat. And then the crowd actually started singing the na, 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 hey, 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 goodbye song to Jericho as he was getting out of there. And that's how this segment ends. I kind of liked it. I kind of liked the segment, to be honest with you. I assume Jericho is going to be gone for a little bit, so we'll see what they do with Big Bill and Brian Keith. As you know, in the absence of Jericho, whether it be for just a couple weeks or longer, I don't know how long he'll be out for, or how long they plan on doing this for. Well, there you go. Ophelia says that she thought she saw there's a new Fozzy album dropping on his Instagram, so maybe they are going on a small tour run or a tour or promotion tour for the new album or something. I'm not sure, but that could be why. So I'm very interested to see what Brian Keith and Big Bill get up to with Jericho not around for a little bit. But I actually liked this segment. I thought it added a little bit to it. I thought instead of the same, I loved how Big Bill called out Jericho for everything that we thought Jericho would do. And then I actually like Jericho being like, hey, that's not what I was going to do. But until you guys figure it out, I'm not going to be the guy that gets angry and berates you every week. I'm just going to leave. And now you guys can prove to me while I'm not here whether you deserve my teachings or not. I thought that was a very good way to go about it, Drew. You all right? You seem focused on other things. Are you good?
No, I'm good. No.
Okay. Sorry.
I
didn't know. Okay. I'm just like, is he reading something? What's he doing?
I mean, I have my Twitter open. I was just
Twitter. Who the hell's on Twitter that you need to be talking to?
Oh, well, I have not a huge update, but PW Insider reported Pac was seen leaving last night's Dynamite taping on crutches. And the belief among talent spoken with is that the injury is ankle-based, but no word yet on how severe.
I mean, hopefully it's a sprain. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
That would suck if he has to be out for
if it's like that would be terrible because they still are the trio champs.
Right, yeah.
Which again we're gonna lead to the end of the show because I think they did that on purpose because my assumption would be Moxley fills in for him.
Yes.
Moxley fills in for him. But we'll get there when we get there. But all in all, did you agreed? You kind of thought this segment was decent?
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it was a better Chris Jericho segment.
I thought
those segments are usually missed.
And
I think that that last part of him just like
I was gonna say
this extra 45 seconds him just walking down.
It was later on it was later on in the they went back to. It wasn't like that was the end of this segment. Like that was a thing they showed later on. When they came back from
commercial?
Yeah, they came back. Yeah, this segment ended. We saw a couple other things. And then when they came back to commercial, we saw Jericho getting in a car and leaving. Walking down the hallway, he hits a crate of things with the bat, knocks it over, and causes a little bit of a mess.
Yeah.
And then he gets in an SUV and it shows him driving off. And that to me, when they showed him driving off, that to me signified that Jericho is actually leaving for a little bit. Yeah. Like it's like, oh, that's him. I think like they showed that on purpose.
At first, I thought maybe there was going to be like someone in the SUV.
Yeah, like someone driving the car or somebody else opens the door for him. And it's like, what the fuck is that guy doing in there? Something like that. I thought that was going to happen too. But they just kind of showed him drive away, which to me signified, okay, we might not be seeing Jericho for a little bit, which I don't think is a bad thing. Let Big Bill and Brian Keith breathe on their own. And then you let them figure it out and do some stuff and breathe on their own. And then because Big Bill is over. He's so over.
Yeah.
And
he's been over for a while now.
Oh yeah. And I think there's a way, especially with Brian Keith kind of not agreeing, clearly didn't want Big Bill to say the shit that he said, might have agreed with him, but didn't want Big Bill to say it. I do think there's a way that by the time Jericho comes back, that Big Bill is the solo one that steps out of this as a star. And maybe Brian Keith sticks with Jericho a little longer. And Bill is the guy. Because Brian Keith is over too, but Bill is like, Big Bill's been over since he was teaming with Brian Cage, man. Like,
Yeah.
Big Bill has been over for a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
I know. Yeah, that was 2 years ago.
Yeah. So, like, I feel like the way Brian Keith reacted, I do feel like there is a way that this story doesn't end, but the next step is Bill becoming a solo. Not them leaving Jericho together, but Bill being the guy that steps out and becomes this guy that the crowd wants. You know, I think there's a way they can do that. And then we were at the main event, Drew. It was the Death Riders, Claudio and Wheeler Yuta against Hook and Samoa Joe of the Ops. Good tag match to end the show. I love the Ops, man. I'm in on the Ops, dude. I love them as a trio. I like the new entrance. I like it all. I loved how Hook stood at the top of the ramp with Joe and they did the same pose and the towels. And I'm all in with Shibata. I think it's a perfect. I am all in on these guys being the guys that take the trios belts from the Death. I'm all in on it.
Hopefully it happens.
Yes. I thought this was a pretty good main event match. I did. Towards the end of it, we see Moxley make his presence felt. He tries to get involved to prevent a pin. But right as he comes out, Hook puts red rum on Yuta. Moxley comes out, gets the referee's attention, which allows Wheeler Yuta to rake the eyes of Hook to get out of it. And then Moxley grabs a chair, or Moxley has a chair with him when he came out, either or. Moxley has a chair, but Shibata runs down and chokes out Moxley from behind and just takes Moxley, which I liked a lot, and just takes him out of the thing, which then allows Red Rum to get back put on Claudio. And at the same time, Joe hits the Coquina clutch on Claudio. And there's kind of a double tap out, and the Ops win by submission. Technically, Hook is the guy who got the win, but they both were, whatever. After the match, Marina Shafir gets in the ring. She has a chair, and she hits Joe with the chair. So Joe is taken out. Shibata, who has just choked out Mox, rushes in. He gets cleared out. Claudio opens a chair upside down, so the legs are facing up.
This was scary.
And it was, but he did it. He did it as perfect as he could to not hurt.
But
Hook.
he did, yeah.
Thankfully. And he gives Hook a neutralizer on the inverted open chair. Gnarly looking. Even though it looked safe as hell the way Claudio did it, it still was like, oh, gross. Samoa Joe then slides in the ring with the chair, and the Death Riders run off through the crowd. And so now you have Hook is just still laid out dead in the ring, but Shibata and Joe are like pacing in the ring. They want to kill the Death Riders. Joe grabs a mic. He calls the Death Riders out. He says, "Oh, shame you guys walked away. He goes, you call yourselves the Death Riders, but now you look like a bunch of cowardly sons of bitches." And he goes, "The Ops came to Baltimore to get in a fist fight, but it seems like the Death Riders are a bunch of," and he said a word you can't say on television. He goes, "It looks like they're a bunch of those right now instead of coming out and getting what they got coming to them." He goes, "So I'll make it real simple. The Ops versus the Death Riders, and we're coming for the trios titles." And then Joe kind of just stares at the camera. Shibata is checking on Hook, and then they both check on Hook. They raise Hook to his feet, and they kind of get an ovation from the crowd as the show goes off the air. So my assumption is the Ops will be the team that takes the trios titles from the Death Riders. Just unfortunately, it might have to be Moxley stepping in for Pac, which I think the way that they did this with Shibata kind of choking out, they did this in a way where Moxley can be that guy that is like, hey, I'm part of the Death Riders. Pac's hurt. I'm stepping in. I'll pull double duty. I'll do what I have to do. I'm going to step in. And I think with it being a trios match, Mox can lose and without getting pinned and looking bad. And it can just.
The funny thing is that would be the perfect thing to get Moxley out of having a championship match at Double or Nothing.
100%. Because he doesn't need to. He doesn't need to have that.
Yeah. Now we're waiting for the trios.
And I actually think that because we're going to find out who the number one contender is for Moxley at Double or Nothing. So if he's fighting, if he opens the show in the trios match, and that's his only match, that it's perfect. He doesn't have to defend the world title at Double or Nothing because he has to do this. Like you said, he has to do this, and then he can just be there. He can come out after Ospreay wins, and they can have a face-to-face if they want to end the pay-per-view or whatever you want to do with Moxley. I think this is again, it's almost like a positive out of a negative because obviously you would just like Pac to not be hurt. Clearly, nobody would want Pac to not. Everybody would want Pac not to be hurt. But if he is hurt and he does have to miss some time, Moxley kind of fitting in and just kind of sliding in as the replacement makes perfect sense in more ways than one. And I think with it being a trios match, Wheeler Yuta can take the pin, Claudio can take the pin or the submit, and Mox doesn't have to lose the trios belts. And at the end of the day, Mox isn't really a part of the trios titles. He's just filling in as a duty to his group. If he loses, he loses. It's not a big deal. So
he'll just get mad at Wheeler.
Yeah. Wheeler Yuta takes the pin. They get more mad at Wheeler, treat Wheeler like shit more. And it kind of feeds more into that side of the story. And it kind of protects Mox from not looking weak, even though I don't think he would, but like not looking weak. And it's kind of like, like I said, an accidental surprise, like an accidental positive. If you look at it that way. But, again, there were things on Dynamite. I liked the main event. I liked the stuff that happened after the main event. I didn't dislike that. I liked the Statlander Thunder Rosa match. I loved the 8-man tag. The MJF Hurt Business stuff I liked, even though I thought it was kind of confusing. I feel like coming off that pay-per-view, coming off the return of the Bucks, and helping Moxley win, that whole beginning of this show was awful. And I think it sent the whole show into a sour taste in my mouth to the point where I came out of this Dynamite going, that show kind of stunk. And maybe it didn't stink as much as I think it did because there is a lot of stuff I did like on it. But that whole beginning of the show, just that sour taste that left me, never left. It never left.
Same.
Throughout the whole show. And I was just like, really man. Didn't. And now that we're talking through it for a couple hours, there is more on the show that I liked than I didn't like. But the stuff I didn't like, I really didn't like.
Yeah.
Really didn't like.
Right. And that's a problem. That's a legitimate problem. And I'm no longer invested in the main title story anymore because it's not interesting to me anymore. I don't like it. And I don't know. I was hoping that the explanation that the Young Bucks would give was going to make sense, logical, and make me invested in the story even more now that they were involved in it. And that just didn't happen.
Yeah. And
I'm not going to Dynamite next week.
You're not?
Nope.
Damn, I thought I was going to see it. It's going to be a good show regardless, dude. Mercedes and Athena. Come on. That's okay.
Happening.
That's okay. Well, fine. I'll go by myself then, you dick. Anyway, it's fine. Totally fine. On that note, though, we're going to get up on out of here. That was Dynamite. If you want to see more extensive thoughts about what we felt about Dynasty, I know some of you weren't here with Drew and I. Right after the show on Sunday, we did a Reacts.
Monday, technically.
It was technically Monday morning, yes. But right after the show, We did a reacts right here on this channel. You should be able to find it if you scroll down on the past videos here. If you want to hear our more in-depth thoughts about the Dynasty show, that was where we are. And moving forward, on all the pay-per-views, but specifically on all the AEW pay-per-views, we are going to be doing those post shows. Because when we come to the show and we're talking about AEW, or if this becomes a 1 day a week show where we talk about both, I think it's going to be pretty impossible for us to like recap full pay-per-views and still talk about Raw and still talk about Dynamite and Collision and Raw and stuff. It's going to be too impossible. So we've kind of come to the conclusion that having pay-per-view post shows where we can like dedicate to just talking about the pay-per-view will make the weekly shows a little bit better and smoother as we can focus on the show we just saw last night, you know? So that's what we're going to be doing from here on out. So if you want more in-depth pay-per-view coverage of WWE and AEW from us, we'll be there after every pay-per-view right here on Love Wrestling on the reacts. That's where we'll be. So
I'm going to try something while you're talking. Keep talking.
Well, that was it. That's all I wanted to say. And then, yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to get up on out of here. We went a little bit 5 minutes over today. Not too bad. But this is the part where I tell Drew that he can plug his stuff, and then him and I will be getting out of here.
All right. After Drew Nicholas on Twitter and Blue Sky, Roundtable Pro Wrestling Podcast, Firmly LW, our show's Twitter account. Go follow us there as well. And yeah, that's all.
Rock and roll. You can find me, JPJ Loves Gaming, on all social media platforms. I will be back here tonight. Just about a little under 8 hours from now, I will be back here with Pluggo, 8 p.m. Eastern, between two beards, the flagship here at Love Wrestling. We're going to be talking this past week's Raw. We're going to be talking Dynasty. We're going to be talking all good things as we are a little over a week. Next weekend is WrestleMania, friends. And it feels like it feels like it's taken forever to get here, but it also feels like I can't believe WrestleMania is next weekend. It's very odd. It's very odd because it feels like, oh, this has been so long to get here, but then I'm also like, it's only a week away. Crazy. So we'll be talking about all things, everything at Beards like we normally do. Tuesdays and Thursdays. Next week, we will have a normal week, y'all. And be on the lookout for the socials. I just said normal week. I mean that as in Tuesday and Thursday, Drew and I will be here next week. We might even be doing something a little extra for you guys. So be on the lookout because there might be a separate WrestleMania preview episode happening at some point next week. So be on the lookout on the Love Wrestling socials. Follow us at Firmly LW on Twitter. That's where you'll probably hear that news first. But be on the lookout for that. Monday nights after Monday Night Raw, you can catch me over on bodyslam.net doing the Raw Dogs post show with my pals Corey and Nick. Yeah, I know I mentioned it on Tuesday, but Josh Robinson, our pal, is starting a thing called The Hive. It's a sports and wrestling entertainment thing. I have been lucky enough to join that crew, so be on the lookout over the next month or so for things there. Be on the lookout next week. Pluggo and I might have hooked up with our pal Ella J for some WrestleMania cool stuff that might be released next week. So be on the lookout for that as well. So we got a lot of stuff going on. It's Mania week. Big things are happening everywhere. So yeah, give a follow to both Drew and I, Firmly LW, Love Wrestling. We got a lot of stuff planned for next week, guys. It's Mania week, and we're going big, just like WWE's going big. So be on the lookout. Post shows, pre-shows, maybe watch-alongs. We're ironing out the details, and we're going to be aiming for a giant week next week. So be on the lookout. Appreciate all the love in the chat. Not really sure what happened to David there, but it's fine. But be on the. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Sorry for my late attendance this morning. I will make sure to punish my computer once I sign off here.
Sorry for my probably terrible performance for the
No,
first 15
no.
minutes.
If
Well,
anybody, you deserve respect for hopping on here by yourself. Because I would have waited for you most likely. But I told you not to. I was like, just fucking go, man. I'm like, I'll be
yeah.
there. I'll be there. Just go. But I personally would have been like, I'm just gonna wait for you. We'll start late. But so I appreciate you manning the fort by yourself for 10 or 15 minutes while my computer decided to be a jerk. So I appreciate you. Appreciate everybody. I'll see you tonight for beards. Drew and I will see you next Tuesday for some firmly WWE. And until then, y'all know the drill. I got to do it closer to me now because we're in a circle. Peace out.